Mikelagoa baino.
Tabernan daude, ama alaba jokoan. Aita semeak tabernan daude, ama alaba jokoan.
Eurea dugu erru guztia, eurea dugu osoan, ezin hori bairua bota, Euskal Herria hiltzean. Aita semeak tabernan daude, ama alaba jokoan. Aita semeak tabernan daude, ama alaba jokoan.
Baina gaztean naiz eta daukat etorkizuna eskuan. Ez zaigu hilgo Euskal Herria, ni bizi naizen artean. Aita semeak tabernan daude, ama alaba jokoan. Aita semeak tabernan daude, ama alaba jokoan.
So I'm Treson from the Human Rights, and you're listening to Tracks from Abroad with Jesse McDougall on CIUT FM 89.5 or online, CIUT.FM.
Hello and welcome to Tracks from Abroad on CIUT 89.5 FM. My name is Jesse McDougall. I'm very glad to have you guys here listening today on CIUT. We've also got two friends in the studio who I will introduce in a moment. But wow, we are back after a summer away of pre-recorded shows. I'm back doing some live shows now, and I have some exciting things to announce. But first of all, let's just recognize this is episode number 80 of Tracks from Abroad. And like Phineas Fogg from the author Jules Verne, we've been around the world in 80 episodes. Here we are, episode 80. If you're just joining TFA for the first time, on Tracks from Abroad, we speak to students from the University of Toronto who are from countries around the world, and we play seldom heard music to expand your listening taste. And this is my last solo show before we transition Tracks from Abroad to a group effort. We're going to start a team show. We've got a team of volunteers here at CIUT, and they're going to have some new hosts coming up next week when we visit Greece, a country that we have not visited yet. But in that first song, you may recognize an unusual language. That's the language Euskara from the northern part of Spain. And this summer, I was able to travel to Bilbao in particular and spend 3 months in that beautiful country. So the first song, if we translate the lyrics, you would hear Father and Son. That's the title by a band called Oscuri. Quote, "I'm young and I have the future in my hands. The Basque Country will not die as long as I live." This is a very old and traditional part of the world that I loved spending my summer in, and we are going to play some music from that part of the world and talk about the Basque Country in Bilbao today. And broadly, we're going to talk about Spain as well. But you have on tap on today's show a lot of fantastic Basque music. I'm glad you're here listening to Tracks from Abroad on CIUT 89.5 FM. And next up, we are going to hear an interview with my good friend who I met in Bilbao. His name is Jon Ander, and we did a walking tour of Casco Viejo, one of the oldest neighborhoods where I had the good fortune to spend my summer in Bilbao. So now, here is my interview with Jon Ander. I started by asking him to describe the transitions that went on in Bilbao, taking it from an industrial city center to more of a cultural hub from the 80s to the 2000s. You are listening to Tracks from Abroad on CIUT 89.5 FM, and here is Jon Ander. Check him out on Tracks from Abroad.
It's been an example for many urbanists on how to transform a city with an industrial background into a very touristy and cultural hub. It's completely different to what it looked in the 1980s, where this was a city that many Spaniards would avoid. There was a time of a lot of unrest, but fortunately, I think the transition was well enough designed to make Bilbao an attractive city for everyone, not only visitors but also its residents.
As an outsider, some of the things I've appreciated living in Casco Viejo, there is lots of music.
Yeah.
Either people busking, or we had the blues festival, which was free. I think they had, if I had to estimate, maybe 30 concerts that were free all over the city. So in terms of music, this city has really got it covered. And then, for restaurants, let's talk about pinchos. What are those?
So pinchos are small snacks. You can eat them in a single mouthful.
Yeah.
And they're a staple of Basque cuisine. In fact, there's just competitions on what the best pincho in the whole Basque Country is. It's amazing to see how many restaurants and small bars try to innovate and improve their own designs, and whatever comes to your mind can be in a pincho. You can just mix up a piece of hake with green pepper, olives, parsley, avocado.
One that I had recently, this is not something you would find in Toronto, was octopus.
Yeah.
Just a very simple sort of a toothpick with some skewered octopus. And like you say, olives and things like that. There are different sizes, these pinchos, and people might associate the word tapas more with these sorts of, aperitif, before the meal, or, just small bites. But here they call them pinchos with an X, apropos of the Basque language. But one pincho in particular, the tortilla, again, sort of a misleading name, because when we think of tortillas, we think of, the bread that you wrap your burrito in.
Yeah.
But here tortilla is more like a quiche. It's made out of eggs.
Quiche,
You and I have tried to cook the tortilla.
Totally.
How did that first batch go?
I think it worked out pretty well for a foreigner. I'm no expert in terms of cooking. I'm not a great chef, but I can testament that your tortilla was pretty decent.
Well, thank you. See, I had gotten some potatoes, and basically all you need is potatoes, onions, We're going into a kind of souvenir shop. This might spark some conversation here. And this here, this is Poopy.
Yeah.
the puppy dog outside of the Guggenheim Museum.
Yeah.
Do you remember the name of the Guggenheim architect?
Yeah, Frank Gehry.
Frank Gehry?
Yeah.
Nice job.
Fellow Torontonian.
There you go. So this is why I wanted to bring it up. So we have puppy, or poopy as they say in Spanish, but also, the museum itself, the Guggenheim Museum, it has a very unusual design. Sort of looks, man, how does it look? It's like silver panels, they're reflective.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure on what exactly Frank Gehry was thinking of when he designed. It's funny because there's an episode from The Simpsons where I think Elizabeth kind of gets a piece of paper, just wrinkles it with her hand and throws it away, and she gets the shape of the Guggenheim Museum.
There you go.
And, yeah.
And so, as you mentioned, the guy's name, Frank Gehry, a guy who also designed the AGO, the Art Gallery of Ontario, which happens to be right near my house. in Toronto, so it's funny to now come to Bilbao and to see this guy's work again. So as we leave that souvenir store, I saw a particular flag of the football team.
Yeah.
From shirts to this kid who's walking right towards us. He's wearing the jersey.
Athletic, it's so deeply rooted in what it means to be from Bilbao. Everything supports the local team here. Everyone supports the local team here. It's got one of the highest average attendance numbers in the entire league, rivaling.
I'm sorry, but I noticed that trying to get tickets.
Yeah.
I mean, $400 for a ticket in the top of the stadium, the nosebleeds.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's pretty crazy.
And a lot of these players, all of these players, come from the region. Can you explain about that?
Yeah, so that's what the athletic club calls its philosophy of their club philosophy.
Yeah.
And they go by this principle of only hiring players that have either been born in the Basque Country or have been trained from a very young age in the academies of Basque clubs. The requirement is that they just hail from the Basque Country in one way or another.
Really investing in community.
It's something so distinctive that very few fans are willing to discontinue that policy. I think it's widely agreed that they should continue that way. You know, just keeping the dream alive that all the kids from the area can maybe one day play on the senior team, right?
That too. That's absolutely true. So that was part of my conversation with Jon Ander, a really nice friend of mine who I met in Bilbao. I enjoyed spending the summer with him. We'll give a shout out to Jon Ander and all the folks that welcomed me to Spain. And speaking of that team, that football team in La Liga, Athletic Bilbao, I was not able to see one of their games, again, because $400 just wasn't in my pocket, but they are just worshipped up there. And not to mention, another sport that is incredibly popular is cycling, because this year, the Tour de France began in Bilbao, and I had the good fortune to spend about 3 hours sitting on the side of the road waiting patiently for the cyclists to come by us, and finally they did. It was a rush. Really an experience I'm going to remember for a long, long time. Now, speaking of Athletic, I was considering playing a song called Athletic by a punk band that was from Bilbao. And punk was very important to the Basque region, in fact, and you may know the political history there, punk music being very rebellious. And so this band, MCD, Me Cago en Dios, I thought, I had a better thought, and I thought, well, maybe I won't play that song. But I will play a different song coming up here. This one is called Boc es Poc. And it's by Kep Junquera, a song suggested kindly for our show by Jacob Edgar of Kumbancha Music in Vermont. And so we're going to play that song right here in a second. But the instrument that you just heard is called the Txistu. It is a recorder that is played in one hand in Bilbao with a drum in the other hand. Pretty impressive duality there. And I remember waking up my very first day in Bilbao to see a parade of Txistu players walking down the street, and it was a beautiful image to wake up to. So now let's listen to a different instrument that is common in the Basque Country. This is the accordion. So check this out. This is Boc es Poc by Kepa Junquera. Now, before the song really gets going, about a minute in, I do want to introduce our two guests. We have Raul and Andrea here on the show today. How are you guys doing?
Hello, everyone. Andrea. Really glad to be here.
Hi, I'm Raul. Glad to be here too.
You know, when I came back from Spain, it was nice to be a little bit better at Spanish and to meet you guys in class. I was thrilled to meet you. And so, we're going to talk a little bit more with Raul and Andrea about the different parts they come from Spain, the Islas Canarias way down in the south. But first, here we go. Boc es Poc. The tune is going to really get up to us right now by Kepa Junquera on Tracks from Abroad. So there you heard some interesting instruments, to be sure. The accordion is played very often in the Basque Country that I saw during the many musical performances that go on. They're free, they're beautiful in the streets. It was a lovely place to be. And another instrument that I really wanted to mention, not easier to pronounce for sure, but it's called the Txalaparta. It's spelled, now take a look at this, Txalaparta, Txalaparta. It's a sort of xylophone, and it has horizontal boards of rectangular wood. I saw this played, for example, at the Tour de France, another interesting instrument. And speaking of that Euskara pronunciation, I went to a waterfall in Navarra, Spain, that was called Xorroxin, spelt Xorroxin. So, Euskara, it is not connected whatsoever to Castellano, to Spanish. It is really its own language, ancient, varying responses on where it might come from, but nobody is truly sure, and it is one of the oldest languages in Europe. So what I wanted to do now is to play a 45-second clip of Euskara being spoken. Maybe you've never heard this language before, and just let me know. You can let us know what you think about this, and I'll say the same to our Spanish guests in the studio. So here is some Euskara, and tell us what you think.
Prozesu batean, hasi gaitezkeen pentsatu gabe agian baldintza guztiak ez dian ematen, eta zalantza eduki dezakegun, ea baldintza horiek eman gabe aurrera egin dezakegun, baino gero benetan nola prozesuak berak bermatzen ditun baldintza horiek, eta nola prozesuak berak egiten goazen enean eta egiteko moduagatik ere baldintza horiek sortzen ditun, eta horrekin lotuta nola
was check 1 2. So there was a little Euskara that you heard, or Euskara, very unusual language, and it was in fact banned during the Franco regime in Spain. So a whole generation of speakers was not allowed to speak it in schools, in public, things like this. But it's now undergone a resurgence, and it's coming up being taught in schools and really being encouraged all over the country. So I'm glad I got to play a little bit of that. I'm almost certain that language has never been on CIUT airwaves before. And I want to get your guys' reactions to the Spaniards in our studio. What did you guys think? Have you ever heard Euskara before?
It's definitely really, really different from Spain. My uncle is from the Basque Country, so every birthday he sings the happy birthday song to me in Euskara.
Wow.
I just cannot understand it.
And for you, Raul, I know you're from very far away, and I should have introduced you guys first. Raul, where are you from in Spain?
I'm from the Canary Islands, more specifically Gran Canaria.
Okay, Canary Islands. I'm quite sure they don't speak Euskara there.
No, only Spanish, actually.
Okay, and tell us a little bit, while we have a moment, can you just talk about the Islas Canarias? What is it like when you walk out your front door in Gran Canaria?
Oh, well, the Canary Islands is such a beautiful place, actually. Weather is of around 20 degrees all year around, great food, great culture. Everyone seems so friendly there. It's just absolutely the best place to be in.
And for you, Andrea, could you tell us where you're from in Spain?
I'm from Extremadura, which is in the south of Spain, really close to Portugal as well. And it's just a lot of agriculture, basically. Well, really, really pretty.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it's beautiful. And what do you guys, will ask Andrea first, what do you miss most? You're a full-time student here at U of T. What do you miss most from your home?
Okay, first, family, of course. But then also food. It's really common in Spain to celebrate every tradition, every festival. It's a lot of food, traditional food, and I just miss that.
Is that shared by you as well, Raul? Are you missing any foods in particular?
Oh, probably jamón serrano and the tortilla you talked about. Those are probably the best for me.
Interesting. I didn't know tortilla was eaten all the way down in that part of Spain. But again, Canary Islands and Bilbao, they share some things in common, however far apart. So we're going to get back to the second part of my interview with Jon Ander. You're listening to Tracks from Abroad on CIUT 89.5 FM. And now we are looking at a beautiful church. This is the first thing I saw when I arrived to Bilbao, searching for my apartment.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure where it was, but we're standing right beside the Church of Santiago, I think it's called.
The Cathedral of Santiago.
The Cathedral of Santiago, which carries the name of the famous and well trodden Camino de Santiago. So the Camino de Santiago, I know about this because my aunt did it. I know thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people do it every year. But can you give us a quick breakdown, John, of what is the Camino? Why are people crossing all of Spain?
Yeah, it's a very famous pilgrimage route. It has a very rich history. There's different ways to go to Santiago, but the thing is that every pilgrim has to go just walking or biking.
Yes.
To the city of Santiago de Compostela in the western region of Galicia in Spain, and reach the Cathedral of Santiago there in Compostela. And it's a way to challenge yourself and doing, I don't know, just walking 300, 400 kilometers.
Yeah.
And a good way to just both meet people along the way, get to know yourself better. It's a very wholesome experience.
Absolutely.
For what I've been told.
So we have kind of similar trails in America, the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah.
It's only for your own enjoyment, but here there's an official website, there's official policies. You collect stamps as you go along from city to city. And also, I mean, there's albergues.
Yeah.
Sort of like hostels.
They're hostels or shelters, specially designed for pilgrims to stay there. You stay night after night in those hostels or shelters that are called albergues and are usually signaled with a shell. That's the official sign of the Camino de Santiago. And they can pilgrims can stay there one night for free. Yeah, it's very, very interesting.
I have a particular question to ask you, John, and it's about your trip to Canada.
Yeah.
I think one reason why we've gotten along is that you have an extensive knowledge of Canada. You know all about Toronto. You've got the Raptors and the Maple Leafs in your dresser.
Yeah.
You've got some jerseys. So what was it exactly that brought you over to do an exchange in Canada?
Yeah. So I was very invested in Canadian culture. I don't know what was the first reason that drew me into Canada and being interested in the country of Canada. Probably, I think, hockey had a lot to do with it. Because, coming from Spain, it's a country that has it's pretty non-existent tradition when it comes to ice hockey.
Yes.
I first discovered the sport thanks to a video game, the NHL 06, back in the day when I was a kid. And, that started creating some interest within me. I was fortunate enough to be accepted by the University of Regina in Saskatchewan and got to spend their fall semester of 2018, and it's great times.
Now, my last question for you, John, as we've walked around Casco Viejo, you have a deep knowledge of this region of Spain, but you've also traveled to Canada, to Norway, I think most recently. Do you see yourself living here for the rest of your life? And if so, what is special? What is bringing you back?
It's just hitting the streets. You can feel the warmth from the people. Just going inside the bars here in Casco Viejo and just having everyone around you. Just eating pinchos. I think it's a great atmosphere, and culturally, I think I would like to be close to my roots. But yeah, I do love the Basque Country, and I think it's a fantastic place of the world to live. Just to share all this culture. I think Jesse can confirm this.
I've been here for about 3 months, and I so look forward to going back to Canada, where my professor is, who suggested I come to Bilbao, my Spanish professor, and thanking him, taking him out. We don't have pinchos in Canada, but maybe taking him out for una cerveza or something like this. But again, John, I want to thank you for coming today on Tracks from Abroad.
It was my pleasure, yes.
Nice.
Arri azpian duru dagoen darika, beratzetik korrika.
You are listening to Tracks from Abroad on CIUT 89.5 FM, and I want to know what you thought about that last song. Another one of those songs where they're singing entirely in Euskara, that language from the Basque Country. So, let's see here. We're still here, of course, with Andrea and Raul, both from very different parts of Spain, pretty far away from the Basque Country. And so let's get your guys. What did you think of that last song?
Oh, I really like it. I couldn't follow the lyrics, but the rhythm was great.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you said you'd been to Vitoria-Gasteiz.
Yes, that's where my family lives. So I've been a couple of summers there.
Nice.
It's a really beautiful city.
Beautiful place.
Yeah.
And so when I say Vitoria-Gasteiz, Victoria is like the Castellano name, and Gasteiz is the Basque name. And it's the same for Donostia, San Sebastien. So Donostia is like the Basque part in San Sebastien. But anyway, so Raul, can you tell us a bit about, have you been around Spain? Have you been to the north? Where have you been?
I spent some time in Asturias, which is in the north part of Spain too. And I've also been to Madrid and Barcelona, but actually not much.
But that's interesting you mentioned Asturias, because I got to visit Oviedo. So I wonder, where did you go in Asturias?
I went to visit a friend of a family member in Grado, which lies relatively close to Oviedo. And it's a truly beautiful place.
Nice.
It's incredible.
Now, you must have seen in Asturias pouring la sidra, the cider that they make, I guess, from apples, and they have to pour it from a real height to get the bubbliness to come up and the flavor. Did you see that?
Yeah, I tried that too, actually. It's really tasty. It's apple cider, for sure. It's a specialty there.
I found it so interesting that they had like their own little barriers in the restaurants, because they pour it and it splashes everywhere. So they have little protection barriers. So anyways, transitioning, I want to get your guys' response to this audio segment. I'm not going to give you any description of what it is, but let's just listen to this right here.
Reciclar está en tu mano. Es la lata de aceitunas que te tomas a la una, la crema que se termina cuando estás en la piscina, el envase de ese polo que no se recicla solo, y una lata de caballa que te comes en la playa, la bolsa de las patatas y del refresco la lata, un envase de paella y del agua la botella. Como ves es muy sencillo, los envases del verano siempre van al amarillo. Eco-M.
Siempre van al amarillo. So what is that commercial talking about, if you guys could tell us?
About recycling.
About recycling?
Yeah, it's really fun. It's about plastic recycling or something like that.
Yeah, so I heard and I thought, man, that is the best little jingle I've ever heard. But getting back to your guys' experience in Spain, Raul, this is your first year in Canada. So how did you come from Spain to Canada?
Well, I studied actually in the University of Amsterdam, so I went from Spain to Amsterdam, and I lived there for 2 years. And then in my third year, I was given an option to study for a few months in whatever country I wanted to. And I started thinking about maybe Singapore, maybe Seoul. And then I came upon Canada. And among Canada, Toronto and Montreal seemed like the most appealing options to me. And I ended up studying here because of the actuarial science courses, which is a field I'm most interested in.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, we're glad you're here. And Andrea, you've been here a little while longer. So what made you want to come from Spain to Canada?
I had the amazing opportunity of coming to Vancouver during high school. I did grade 11 there thanks to a scholarship, and then I fell in love with the country. The mixture of culture was just so interesting for me, and I knew I had to come back. So I applied to UT, and here I am, my third year.
Fantastic. I'm really glad to hear that, and thank you guys for coming on the show today. We'll see how much time we have. We might get a few more questions to you all, but right now, we're going to play a song. This one's called Tómame o Déjame, from a band that's from Bilbao, Mocedades. Still working on my Spanish pronunciation, so check it out right here on Tracks from Abroad.
Tómame o déjame, pero no me pidas que te crea más. Cuando llegas tarde a casa, No tienes por qué inventar, pues tu ropa huele a leña de otro hogar. Tómame o déjame, si no estoy despierta, déjame soñar. No me beses en la frente, sabes que te oí llegar y tu beso sabe a culpabilidad. Tú me admiras porque callo y miro al cielo, porque no me ves llorar y te sientes cada día más pequeño y esquivas mi mirada en tu mirar. Tómame o déjame, ni te espío ni te quito libertad, pero si dejas el nido, si me vas a abandonar, hazlo antes de que empiece a clarear. Tú me admiras porque callo y miro al cielo, porque no me ves llorar y te sientes cada día más pequeño y esquivas mi mirada, tu mirar. Tómame o déjame, y si vuelves, trae contigo la verdad, trae erguida la mirada, trae contigo mi rival. Si es mejor que yo, podré entonces llorar.
You are listening to Tracks from Abroad on CIUT 89.5 FM. My name is Jesse McDougall, and I want to give an enormous thank you, un montón de gracias, mil gracias, Andrea and Raúl for coming on the show today. They're going to head out here, but we were happy to have them. I wanted to represent different parts of Spain, not just Bilbao. However, I did spend the summer there, and it's a lovely, lovely place to be. And now I have a little story to tell you. Allow me to put on my story hat. There we go, now it's on. The story is that we talked with, you heard from Jon Ander. He was talking about the Camino de Santiago. And this is actually a route that I was lucky enough to walk on for 3 days with my father when he came to visit at the end of the summer. And we started in Irún, very close to the French border, and we walked through San Sebastien. That was our first night. I'm not sure if I'm going to remember the next points on the trip, but the trip took us 3 days, about 60 kilometers of walking, and we stayed at some albergues. These are free hostels where pilgrims stay in Spain. Now, one night, we arrive in San Sebastien, and all of the hostels are full with tourists and surfers, and we did not know what to do. So we thought to ourselves, we'll just sit down on this bench, and maybe something will come across our way. And boy, something did come across our way, because a man came up to us. He, in fact, was the organ player at a nearby church, the Church of San Ignacio. And he said to us, "Are you looking for a place to stay tonight?" And we absolutely were. And just by chance, in the basement of this church, they had about 20 different cot-sized beds that we could stay in. Of course, we only took a few of them for ourselves, but it was a real stroke of luck to have this man help us out on that night. And not only that, but he played the organ for us and did a little performance in this empty church, the Church of San Ignacio. It was a really beautiful experience, and I was able to record part of that organ playing, which you will hear right now on Tracks from Abroad. So that was that live organ performance by, oh man, I believe the guy's name was Gregario or something like this. What a generous person to accept my dad and I into the church, give us a place to stay for the night, and then play that performance. I hope you enjoyed that organ playing. Beautiful song. That's all I can say. And now we've come to almost the end of our show. I want to thank, again, Andrea, Raul, these students at the University of Toronto for coming on the show, not to mention the dozens of students who have come on the 80 episodes that we've made on Tracks from Abroad. I'd like to thank Jon Ander for doing that interview with me this summer that I was able to play. And most of all, Ivan Fernandez Peleas, my Spanish teacher from the Spanish department at U of T, who suggested, Jesse, why don't you just go to Bilbao? Because I have a friend there. That was a very nice thing for him to do. Thank you, Ivan. So to sum everything up, again, episode number 80 of Tracks from Abroad, we have done 1,638 downloads on Podbean. Our biggest show was Zambia, which received 109 downloads in one day, a total of 128. I recommend you go check that one out. Our audience percentage, if you want to know, Canada, it's around 50%, the United States, 29%, followed by Spain. 10% of our listeners are in Spain, also in Malaysia, in Japan, and Zambia has 1% of our listeners. We want to give a shout out to everybody listening all around the world to Tracks from Abroad. Now, we also have listeners in Mongolia, Indonesia, Iran, Mexico, Malawi, and Hungary. These are all places that we should absolutely do shows on and speak to some students from those countries. And our next episode, I'm happy to announce, is going to be in Greece. Next to me, we have Matthew, our board tech, coming in next week. And we have two new hosts on the show who are going to carry on Tracks from Abroad for the near future. This is my last semester of school, and so I'm going to be passing the torch. And if you want to connect with Tracks from Abroad, you can do so at tfa.radio on Instagram, or over email, send us a message. We're tracksfromabroad@ciut.fm. So, thank you very much. To wrap up this show, we're going to play 3 of my favorite Canadian songs that I never really got the chance to play, starting with, well, you'll hear the song in just a moment. Thank you very much for listening to Tracks from Abroad on CIUT, and coming up next, Indigenous Waves at 7.
I didn't scream or fuss. I did have lots of patience waiting for that bus. Dug deep down in my pockets to try and find some coin, but much to my chagrin, all I found was my groin. Hey!
So the next song we got coming up is a Tom Green song. This is Check the OR from the Archives. I've just been getting into Tom Green. Now, he was a little before my generation, but here we have Check the OR coming up on Tracks from Abroad. Tom Green, everybody.
Check the OR, you like it so far? Check the OR, you like it so far? Check the OR, you like it so far? Check the OR, you love the OR. Here we go, ready to set it off. From coast to coast, it's the most and it hits rough. Organized rhymes here to start it up. You got some trouble with your mouth, you better shut it up. Think twice before you act and try to tackle the funky stuff. I take your suckers out like meat on a shish kebab. And you don't know it, but your girl's doing kiss and rob. And you're the one who wants the corn, but you miss the cop. So here's a bit of something new. Give me a toot and salute, and I'll give you my boots. Where you need it while I'm playing the thespian. I got a ride and you're just a pedestrian. I grab a horse and I jump like equestrian. I talk smooth like Lando Calrissian. Deal with the leader of the convoy. Make some noise for the boys as we rip points. Move your joints into motion if you can keep up. If you can't, here's a hanky to clean your weave up. Poetics are dropped and no type of coincidence. Check the OR. Check the OR, you like it so far? Check the OR, you like it so far? Check the OR, you like it so far? Check the OR, you love the OR. Check the OR, you like it so far? Check the OR, you like it so far? Check the OR, you like it so far? Check the OR, you love the OR. Check the OR, you like it so far? Smack your back and you deal with a deep scar. I will test you from the west of you. Now you know that I'm better than the best of you. I'll remove you quicker than a band-aid. Pay backstage and I'm gone like a renegade. And I don't delay, want the replay like Sinatra. Got you my way. I feel lonely, so I'll lay low. Never lonely, now that I clock dough. Flipping women over like a pancake. And I will make mistakes in a heartbreak. Receive honors, make your garners. Break the deuce like Jimmy Connors. I'm not a phony, preaching testimony. Send you down to the bank for the alimony. I make light of everyday establishment with content sticking like polydent. But I pay my dues. I lay more chicks than Mother Goose. Pass the OJ cause I got juice. Break the silence and make the truth. So yes, yes, y'all. And you don't stop until the beat, y'all. And you don't dare stop until the hip hop. Hip it, hip hop. And you don't dare go off like a cannon. You're a copier, much sloppier, so I'm gonna drop ya. You got a demo, well I guess I'm gonna shop ya. Take a risk like a disc, you're floppier. Uplifted, cause I'm gifted. Tough like algebra, but I'm twisted. You misfit, meet the better man. Gonna razz you just like Letterman. Hip hop, not a weasel going pop. You don't stop, check the OR. Check the OR, you like it so far. Check the OR, you like it so far. Check the OR, you like it so far. Check the OR, you love the OR. Check the OR, you like it so far. Check the OR, you like it so far. Check the OR, you like it so far. Check the OR, you love the OR. Back at last to compose the next swift rap. Room in my pocket so I don't need a hip hack. Hip hop tactics is what I'll be practicing. I don't act, I see heads and I crack them. Only if they need it. I'm really a nice guy. Still I got a temper to the ladies I talk fly. Making them smile for a while when I begin. Being the chameleon. Come cause here I am, heading the right way and I won't stop this. I'm knowing the time but I don't wear a pop watch. Playing C's when I jump like a hopscotch. Climb the ranks so consider me top notch. Take control of your system when I'm in it. You wanna get with this? I hit with persistence. Swing the countdown 1, 2, 3, 4. Smooth it out now, check the OR. Check the OR, you like it so far. Check the OR, you like it so far.
Lou, we've been looking for you. You got a tape. We had a hard time getting in.
Wait till it's time to get out.
DJ's fly, no slag mix.
Slag mix.
My bike ain't broke, don't need my mags.
Don't need my mags.
Never got time for deficiency. If I leave a girl, I know she's missing me.
I know she's missing you.
Across the room, I can see it and can't stop myself from looking and noticing you, noticing me. Watch out, I've seen a type before. That girl is so dangerous. That girl is so dangerous. That girl is a bad girl. I've seen a type before. She's so dangerous. That girl is so dangerous. That girl is a bad girl.
Yeah, that's her, the big dog trying to get a little kitty to perk. X-Man looking at me like I'm Lucifer, cause he knows I would deal with the case, yes sir. If I was the last man on earth, I would only take that girl and the search. She give her no definition to the word curve. Got chicks in the strip club and being hers. Bodies like weapons of mass eruptions. Sit the glass on that fat obstruction. Tongue ain't give a new type seduction. I'm trying to give back a something.
Notice you, noticing me. From across the room, I can see it and can't stop myself from looking and noticing you, noticing me. Watch out, I've seen a type before. That girl is so dangerous. That girl is so dangerous. That girl is a bad girl. I've seen a type before. She's so dangerous. That girl is so dangerous. That girl is a bad girl.
Ooh, bad to the bone. Everything locked like a 2-3 zone. I wanted to make my black snake moan. Talk a little bit, then take that on. She bad and she know the deal. That's what I can't hide, what she wanna conceal. I mean, making good and had it big. Put together and close to the drippy I see. No disrespect, but this gal up on another level caught the trick. Tell King Max stop the purr. Say, kid, can I get a witness?
Notice but you, notice you, noticing me. From across the room, I can see it and can't stop myself from looking and noticing you, noticing me. Watch out, I've seen a type before. That girl is so dangerous. That girl is so dangerous. That girl is a bad girl. I've seen a type before. She's so dangerous. That girl is so dangerous. That girl is a bad girl. Yeah. I see you got that thigh out by the way that you're walking. From left to right, I watched her go down. Girl, I just want it right now. Don't wanna do no talking. Shorty so right, I need to slow down.
Figure eight, good body shape. When she on the dance floor, girl, am I rate. When she do I think man can't walk straight. That biscuit will soak up everything on our plate. Bad heels like Jessica Pete. I'm trying to give homegirl sex in the city, itty bitty waistline. Moves with the baseline. One nigga punch, I'm fine.
But you